everybody, that was a bit of fun. My name is Anne Russell and I'm from the Russell Family Fetal Alcohol Disorders Association. The RFFADA is a national organisation providing support and information on FASD. We also lobby the government and raise awareness of the dangers of alcohol and pregnancy. I'm streaming a series of live videos and we might just close that door. Would you mind closing that door please, Warren? So the live videos that we're streaming is obviously in a very busy office and it's hard to get a bit of time without too much noise. Anyway, this week we're going to talk about puberty and FASD. It's a very difficult time in a person's life or in the life of a family where the child has FASD and is going through puberty. So it's a big issue in anyone's life, let alone a person with a brain injury, which means that if they're actually 13 years of age chronologically, they're perhaps 5 years old socially. This will obviously create a lot of issues. Children with FASD will often have a precocious puberty, which means that it may come earlier than expected. All children with FASD are different, so I can only really talk in general terms. If you think that your child is going through precocious puberty, you need to just check up with the doctor, make sure everything is okay. Children with FASD will undergo all of the same physical and emotional changes, but their developmental and behavioural disabilities can cause complications and confusion and sort of some lack of understanding about what's going on as well. Children with FASD are often unable to predict what's going to come next. So it's important to watch your child and talk to them about the various bodily changes that they're experiencing before they occur, and then maybe again, maybe a few months later and again, just so that they understand and are prepared for what might be coming next, depending on whether they're boys or girls. If you're discussing any of these sorts of complicated issues with a child with FASD, it's useful to pitch the explanation as if you were talking to someone much younger. Use short descriptions and concrete explanations. Talking about your own menstrual cycle or experience might create discussion and a better understanding for your child. For girls, hygiene will become more important during periods, and for boys who have not been circumcised especially. For girls, a regular schedule for changing pads or tampons might get them into a routine that works hygiene-wise, and they should be changed regardless. The schedule should be adhered to regardless until periods have finished. Even though your child is still young, if you think that birth control might be warranted, don't wait. Ensure that fertility is managed appropriately. With precocious puberty, can often come some precocious sexuality. If fertility is not managed, an unplanned pregnancy may occur. This is critical, and I recommend that this is a priority for all girls with FASD who are likely to come in contact with boys. Curiosity, vulnerability or precocity may cause even very young people with FASD to explore their sexuality. Puberty can also be a time for risk-taking, drugs and alcohol, and for mental health problems to arise, particularly if they've had many foster placements or other trauma. Boys can become more aggressive and inappropriate. A common secondary issue for children and adolescents with FASD is inappropriate sexual behaviour, and people should be supervised if possible, and families should be aware. Because of the lack of understanding of cause and consequence, boys may not understand the responsibility they have to use protection in a consensual, legal sexual encounter, and unwanted pregnancies are very common in this group. Try talking to your adolescent boy about the meaning of no in this context. He will need to know what type of behaviour a girl who does not wish his attentions might exhibit. Additionally, for girls, advising them about the actions they may be able to take if they are the recipient of unwanted attentions. For example, they may need a whistle or saying no. They may, you know, you may have to go over, do a role play with your child about what is an unwanted sexual attention. This is a very difficult subject, and for the best experience, the adolescent has already been diagnosed and appropriate interventions have existed in the household for years. For those children who are not yet diagnosed, their pre-existing behaviour and actions might be too difficult to shift. Above all, protection from STDs and fertility management is critical. This can often be the reason for grandparents looking after grandchildren, as the birth parents have little or no capacity to do that. STDs are common. Without appropriate support and constant repetition of what appropriate sexuality looks like, adolescents with FASD can be indiscriminate about sexual partners, and as they tend to gravitate towards peers who understand them, those peers may also have FASD, and things can get out of control. As well as sexuality, puberty can also be a time for aggression and violent behaviour that causes a great deal of angst within the family. Verbal threats, holes in the walls, and absconding for days at a time can become the norm in a household with a teenager with FASD. Mental health conditions and drugs and alcohol abuse can also be problems. I expect that you'd like to know more than what will actually happen. You'll want to know about how to manage this behaviour. The longer you've known your child has FASD, the better. Or the better these issues will be managed, because as we all know, early intervention is critical, and when there's early intervention there are so many things that can be done to help avoid some of these issues. Hi Claire, how are you going? For example, going out drinking and using drugs at night, then you could, well, whatever you want to put in there. So when you're talking to your child, if you use continuous repetition and examples and role play, so an explanation about why we don't want these things to happen. For example, I think anything visual is really good, and role plays are really good. So we know our kids don't understand cause and consequence, but we can still say, if you go out at night, then this could happen. Unfortunately, in my case, my son wasn't diagnosed until he was about 18, but when I would say those sorts of things, he would come back all the time with, "Nothing will happen, Mum." And it's very hard to get past that. Because our children find understanding cause and consequence difficult to comprehend, it really doesn't mean that we can't try to explain cause and consequence. In fact, it's really critical, along with repetition, of course. So, in conclusion, puberty can be a very difficult time for families living with FASD. I believe in picking your battles. I think that's really important, because you don't want to be continually on to the child all the time, because with kids with FASD you will be. So it's important to pick what you're going to burr up about, or what you're going to talk to them about. I think obviously loving them unconditionally, trying to access services that will take the pressure off you, but don't expect much there. Unfortunately, services can be, depending on which services you access, they can be excellent, or they can cause more trouble than if you hadn't accessed them. Be clear about structure, rules and routine. Implement the rules that you would like to see during puberty well before time. Get children used to these rules before they become critical and before those hormones kick in. Look, if you've got any questions, I'm online. Just ask underneath this video on Facebook. Next week I've had a request to talk to you about young children. If you or your organisation would like professional, up-to-date training on FASD, please let me know at the Russell Family Fetal Alcohol Disorders Association on 0412 550 540 or at elizabeth@rffada.org. Don't forget to press the subscribe button on your phone to subscribe to this channel. Thanks very much. Sorry about the previous video. Thank you. Bye-bye.